after the Florida thing, it was crazy. But speaking of Florida, this is where the man became a legend, even more of a legend. I had him on the show the other day, and I want to bring in a guest right now, Bob Nightengale, to talk a little bit about what has happened today. Bob, welcome. I think you're on mute, Bob. Unmute it for a second if you can. Can you hear me?
Hey, Ben, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Great
Bob,
to see you.
First, thank you so much for joining me again. What a big day for baseball. Let's talk about today. One, you came on this show a couple of days ago and said that you thought a deal would get done tomorrow, as in yesterday. And in my opinion, it was gonna get done. And then the international draft became a big thing. Where did that come out of nowhere, or was that kind of a thing all along?
I think it was kind of a thing all along, but nobody really talked about it. I think there was a whole lot of miscommunication because we had heard in Florida that there's no more qualifying offer, that MLB had said, no more restrictions on free agency. Didn't know what it was tied to. MLB thought all along was tied, to an international draft. It turns out it wasn't. So, late last night after MLB had announced that, 2 weeks of games are gone, they got a email and said, how about this idea? It was really too late to consider. And so this morning it was hammered out easily, like, let's put this aside. We don't know what the right answer is. We'll push it back to July 25th, and then we'll decide whether we want an international draft or not, which wouldn't happen anyway until 2024. Once that happened, they were so close in the numbers, and then it was almost a piece of cake.
Yeah. Nothing has been a piece of cake during this time. I'll tell you that much, though. What have the emotions been like from the players' side the last day to today? Like, was it as much of a roller coaster for us following along? Were the players kind of in the same boat, or were they even keel this whole time? Let's figure this out and get a right deal for us.
I don't think they were stressing out, but I thought it was very telling in the vote today, Ben, the fact that, of the teams, 26 of the 30 said, let's do this. So the vote was 26-4. The executive council was, all 8 against it. So, the massive players spoke. And remember now, most of these players are young players. I think 62% of them were making less than $1 million last year.
Yep.
So they're saying, oh my God, our minimum salary is going from $570 to $700 with these bonuses now if I'm not eligible for salary arbitration. So I think they said, this is a great deal. MLB is not moving anymore. Let's grab this thing.
So let's talk about that vote today. As you just mentioned, the board voted 8-0 against it. And then here you have the strong majority of the league and the players voting for it. How is that possible, Bob? And why is that the case? Why do we have this executive board in place that's saying no, 8-0, all in favor of no, and then we have the teams overwhelmingly yes? How is that the case?
Well, it's interesting because that board is made up of a lot of players who have made a lot of money and are still making a lot of money. Whether it's a Max Scherzer, a Garrett Cole, Marcus Semien, Francisco Lindor. Those guys have made, a lot of money, and they're going to keep making a lot of money. Most of baseball are young players and say, wait a minute now, I don't really want to miss, a $3,000 a day paycheck. Let alone, Scherzer would be missing $232,000 a day. So I think there's so many young players that said, man, this is a great opportunity for us. So much better than we've ever had. The minimum salary, nobody thought would jump up to that quickly. And the bonus pool is brand new. So I think they said, this is a fair deal. You guys can say what you want, but I'm voting yes. Because even when the word was going, down for a while there, I saw your tweet, Ben, was, I'm going to get sick. It was just, those guys were still taking votes. So the players I talked to said, wait a minute now, we haven't voted no on this thing. We kind of like it. And sure enough, when the final vote came out, 26 of 30 teams says, we're on board.
That tweet was not an overreaction, by the way. This has taken a toll on my mental stability. It has been wild. What about for you, Bob? I know you're in the heart of it. You're covering this, and it's going back and forth and back and forth. Like, where were you mentally during all of this?
Yeah, it was crazy times, and you're kind of just glued to your phone, glued to your computer. Living here in Phoenix area, the idea was to get a few spring training camps until this thing got started. But with the negotiations going on every day and then going on in Florida, I thought at some point they'll probably have negotiations come to Phoenix. But yeah, you're just kind of glued inside, and might as well have been 40 below zero in Phoenix instead of nice weather, because I wasn't going outside much anyway. The funny thing today, Ben, is I stepped outside to grab a sandwich. The deal is done. I go drive back home quickly. Who do I run to the parking lot? Bud Selig. Selig had no idea, and he thought I was pulling his leg. It took him 10 to 15 minutes for me to convince him the deal was done.
No way. That's incredible. So you get Bud Selig, former commissioner of the league, and you run it. You break the news to him, and he didn't believe you. that sounds about right. So, hey, like we talked about, the big holdup last night and at the beginning of the day was the international draft. Now, I hear a lot of people, okay, the international draft was a big deal. I know that. But what is the big deal? Why are a lot of players so against it? Why does the league want it? So I guess my question would be, as simple as you could possibly make it, because I know it's complicated, why don't the players want it so bad, and why does the league?
I think the league wants to control all the legal activity that's going on, curb that, stop that stuff. With the Bisconis, kids signing at 12 and 13 years old, getting out of control, just so many dirty politics going on. And I think that with the players, the thing was pretty divided. There's a whole lot of players, American players, that said, I want the international draft. Just like you, Ben, when you go to, high school and college, you get drafted, you're not a free agent. You only have one team drafting you. When you're in the Dominicans and the other countries, you got 30 teams. You're a free agent at the age of 17. So it was very split among teams, very split among players, whether they should have international draft. So now until, July 25th, people can study it. They can talk to people to see whether they should do it or not. And remember, it won't start till 2024 if it happens. So it gives 2 more years to talk to the right people and how to actually handle, the foreign market.
So I know a lot of people had a hand in this, and we started hearing a lot of things back and forth today. How much of a factor did agents have on all of this? And I'm going to say Scott Boras, because he's kind of the one with the most power, I feel like, amongst owners or amongst agents, and the biggest voice. How much of a say was he having in what was happening today in the vote?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, MLB people have talked about that. Other agents have talked about that. The fact of the matter is 5 of the 8 members of the executive board are Scott Boras clients. We know that everybody voted no on it. You talk to Scott Boras, he said those guys, make up their own opinion. I give them information on things, but they make up their minds. So read into what you will. But he had a lot of influence on that board. And, to a point where I think a lot of agents have been talking next CBA, no one, or, even beginning next year, no one should be allowed to represent more than 2 players on the executive board, that no agent should wield that kind of power.
Let's do anything but talk about the next CBA. Please, for the love of God, we're not talking about that. Another question I have for you would be, today, at least from the outside, it became pretty apparent that the league wanted to include the past grievances, into this deal. Did that become a big issue at all? Had that kind of been talked about in the past, they wanted to do that? Or was it seeming on our side, it was, okay, here's this deal, we want to put this in, or was that not the case?
No, I guess, talking to, this is in Florida, Ron Blum, who's been covering labor issues forever for Associated Press. He said at the end of every CBA negotiation, you always address that. And so this is nothing new. So what they did address was the 2020, they got rid of that grievance. Remember when the players wanted to play earlier and have more games? So that's thrown out the window. The one from a few years ago, when the grievance charges that the small market teams aren't trying to win and just, pocketing the revenue sharing checks, that one's still outstanding. But certainly MLB kind of shrugs her shoulders and, says no big deal. But apparently at the end of every labor deal, the grievances are supposed to be all resolved before moving on.
Well, here we are, Bob. We're back to 162 games. After all is said and done, things were crazy, people were pissed off, and now here we are. A full season is going to take place in just about a week less than it was originally scheduled. What's their plan there? 162 games still in about a week less. How are they going to make that up?
Yeah, so they'll start the season a week late, Ben. So it's going to start on April 7th, which is on a Friday. It might be a Thursday. But anyways, April 7th it starts. And then what they're going to do is, so every team missed 6 or 7 games. So you'll make up 3 or 4 of those games with double hitters. And then what Major League Baseball will do is they're going to extend the season by 3 days. So 3 days longer. And then hope to make up that extra time with maybe fewer off days in the postseason. But hey, the double hitters will be 9 innings, back to traditional rules, no more ghost runners. Baseball the way it was meant to be played all along.
Well, Bob, in my opinion, this whole process, you became the Babe Ruth of baseball Twitter. You called your shot, and in my opinion, you figured it out and you got it right. You became a superstar during all this. How do you feel about that?
I think you're my leading campaign manager, Ben. So
I definitely am.
Any attention I got, I'm giving credit to you. I got a lot of I got jerseys in my house of players I cover in football, basketball. So, forget about Justin Verlander. I would love to have a Ben Verlander jersey one day hanging here.
All right, those aren't available online. I'll have to scrounge one out of my old bags and find one for you. But Bob, thank you for joining me the other day on the show, and thank you for joining me now. This is a great day in baseball history, and thank you for everything you did. Seriously, I mean this. Thank you for everything you did throughout covering it and bringing us as much info as you could.
Well, thank you, Ben. Look forward to seeing you at Angels Camp at Shohei.
Yes, sir. That's right. Be there soon. Thanks for watching. If you love Flippin Bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.